The tragedy of the original Iran nuclear deal was that it was a good deal. It had been painstakingly negotiated over several years by a number of different countries, and it seemed to be working well. And in fact, it worked so well that the EU remained committed to it, together with Iran, even after the United States, under Trump in his first term, walked away from it.
Look, Donald Trump has said he wants a real end to Iran's nuclear problem, as he puts it. I mean, realistically, in your mind, how likely is he to ensure that happens using military force?
It will require a lot of military force to end Iran's nuclear program, and the question is whose military force it will require. Just Israel or the United States as well? And if it's going to require the United States military, then we are talking about a completely new dimension of this conflict. An armed conflict between the United States and Iran is very different than an armed conflict between Israel and Iran. So that seems unlikely, but of course, the usual caveat applies that things that would ordinarily seem unlikely may not turn out to be unlikely in the world led by Trump.
I mean, he is the deal maker, isn't he? And we all know that, that's essentially the reputation that he wants for himself. Do you think actually that weakens his position over this? I mean, launching military action kind of dilutes that reputation, and Iran must know that that's not actually what he wants.
Yeah, so there are, so to speak, three partners in this marriage. So Iran, Israel, and the United States, and they all want different things. And Israel and the United States, the presumptive allies in this alliance, or in this configuration, as it were, they want different things. So the question is whose objectives win, or who wins in this tug of war between Israel and the United States when it comes to what to do about Iran. Israel very clearly wants an end to Iran's nuclear program. That is the stated objective. But the United States, but Donald Trump, wants a nuclear deal. Remember, his one of his big things is that he hated the nuclear deal negotiated by Obama, or by the Obama administration. He called it the worst deal ever, but he thinks that he can deliver a better deal. So that is very different from wanting to bomb Iran's nuclear capabilities away. Who wins? That is what we'll see.
We'll come to the nuclear deal in a minute. I just want to examine a little bit more. You said it there, how if America's forces get involved, this changes dramatically. What does sort of the full military might of America getting involved look like? I mean, are we talking Tehran being turned into Gaza here?
I don't think anybody knows what it would look like, simply because the United States is not in the business of attacking powerful countries. It has obviously invaded in recent years. It has invaded Iraq. It has invaded Afghanistan, where they are very different from Iran. Iran is a powerful nation. It's a populous nation. It's also powerful militarily, scientifically, and as a result, attacking it would be a way bigger risk than attacking Iraq or Afghanistan. And I think America has emerged somewhat chastened, to put it diplomatically, from the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. And there is another thing. Trump is an isolationist, unlike many hardcore Republicans in past decades, and indeed in past years. He doesn't believe very much in military intervention. He's an isolationist who wants to focus efforts on America, on the homeland, and he also wants to strike trade deals, famously. So getting into a war with Iran would not be something that would be expected from somebody with his mindset, or from Trump himself, I should say. But then again, he is so unpredictable that it can't be ruled out. But we should remember that what we have seen in the past few weeks with the military getting involved at home in quelling protests, that was seen as a an effort by Trump to show that I care more about the homeland. This is how we're going to use our resources, and to then potentially use military resources against Iran. I just think for a man of his mindset, that is unlikely.
I mean, there is a warship on the way, isn't there, from the South China Sea at the moment? Is that just posturing, do you think, from Trump?
Well, this is what usually happens when something happens in the Middle East. The Americans send some sort of impressive naval ship that sails up and essentially waits around to signal that if you misbehave, whoever you is, then we may decide to get involved. That is what they usually do, and it often works quite well. It's a powerful reminder that America could take action if it wanted to, and of course, in recent months, it has taken action. Using its navy against the Houthis. But again, the Houthis are a militia. They are not even a state, and that's very different from Iran. Even though the Houthis are allied with Iran, the U.S. Navy's strikes in the Red Sea are against the Houthis.
Elisabeth, you mentioned, the difference in risk of America getting involved in Iran compared to Iraq or Afghanistan. What are those risks? I mean, Iran is not a global superpower, is it? We're not talking about that level of power here, maybe regionally.
It is a regional power, and it's also a tenacious regime, and in many ways quite sophisticated when it comes to the way the whole military system is set up. It also used to have a very sophisticated system of proxies. That system has, let's say, crumbled a bit in recent months, but nevertheless, it is a sophisticated regime, powerful regime militarily. And again, scientifically, very different from Iraq and especially Afghanistan. And with any war, you choose when you start a war, but you don't choose when you end it, because that depends as much on the other side as America has had to painfully learn in recent years, as Russia is learning as we speak. So you have to be truly convinced that you will overpower the country that you're planning to attack, unless you want to be have your forces bogged down for a very long time.
Let's look at the possibility of a nuclear deal. You said it there. He didn't like the Obama administration's one. So what do you think Trump would be looking specifically to negotiate with Iran? And would the Iranian regime ever accept the terms that you imagine Trump is after?
I think the tragedy of the original Iran nuclear deal was that it was a good deal. It had been painstakingly negotiated over several years by a number of different countries, and it seemed to be working well. And in fact, it worked so well that the EU remained committed to it, together with Iran, even after the United States, under Trump in his first term, walked away from it. I don't see how a new Iran nuclear deal could be very different on substance. What the main difference would be that it would be a bilateral deal between the United States and Iran, rather than a multilateral deal, which the previous one was. And that is very much Trump's style. He doesn't believe in multilateralism. He believes in direct deals between the United States, i.e. him, and other countries. And that will be the main difference. But I think from a European perspective, it also makes such a deal less secure, because the more countries you have involved in an agreement, the better it is. But this is the world. This is the situation we have to accept now. The original Iran nuclear deal is not going to come back. If we're going to have a second one, it will be a US Iran bilateral deal.
How do you think Israel would feel about that? I mean, does a deal, rather than sort of a vow to completely end this Iranian nuclear program, sort of signify him walking away from Israel a little?
Israel, or Prime Minister Netanyahu himself, has signaled in recent weeks and months that he didn't like or didn't appreciate Trump's direct dealings with entities opposed to Israel. So whether that be the negotiation to release one of the Hamas hostages from Gaza, or whether that be interaction with Iran. So that could cause some discord between the United States and Israel. But I think the biggest discord is how to curtail Iran's nuclear program through military might or through negotiation. These are two completely different interpretations of what ought to be done, and the two can't be done at the same time. So what gives? Which objective? Which strategy? Which tactic wins?
Do you think that Trump sort of cares about anything other than the nuclear bomb issue when it comes to Iran? I mean, wouldn't regime change be a better, less dangerous, and maybe more trustworthy thing to push for?
It might be, but regime change is incredibly difficult. America has tried it so many times, and each time it has it has turned into a very unsuccessful enterprise, simply because it's very difficult and unpredictable to try to tell another country how to be governed. And it's I don't see how it could succeed on the 10th or 11th or 12th time of trying when it hasn't succeeded in the past. And we should remember that Iran is not is a powerful country, and it's not the sort of maybe weak, unsophisticated country that Western countries would consider manageable, and where they could apply their power to the point that regime change ought to be possible. I don't think it's possible even in such circumstances, but maybe. But with a country like Iran, how would that work? I think that is too ambitious an objective. The objective of ending Iran's nuclear program I think is a realistic one. And again, the question is how to end it.
In the last 24 hours, we've seen Donald Trump leave the G7 summit in Canada early. I realise this is a very risky thing for an analyst such as yourself, but I'm going to try and get you into the head of Donald Trump a little bit and ask you whether you think this sort of obsession he appears to have right now with the Middle East, having almost, it feels like, moved on a little bit from the Russia-Ukraine situation. We know how much he wants this Nobel Peace Prize. We've all talked about it so much. Do you think that this is his new target for a Nobel Peace Prize? Can't happen for Ukraine, so it's going to happen in the Middle East.
Yeah, who knows? Everything is possible, right? But then again, if a Nobel Prize is what he wants, then there are plenty of other ways in which he would have in which he would be able to put in a good bid, as it were, having to do with hunger, having to do with countries affected by climate change, having to do with countries affected by civil wars. If you want a Nobel Peace Prize, there are so many crises, there are so many suffering people, there are so many conflicts, civil wars, etc., that there is no shortage of crises to tackle. Unfortunately, few of them are as prominent in the headlines as the Iran-Israel conflict. I would, for example, love to see Trump or anybody else paying serious attention to the civil war in Sudan, which is killing so many people, but it's not in the headlines. And so it may be less attractive to global leaders seeking to put in a credible bid for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, I just have one final question, and it moves away from Donald Trump, really. And this is just a bit of an observation that Iran feels remarkably alone in its efforts right now, doesn't it? Even with Israel as its adversary. I mean, none of its neighbours feel like they're sort of coming out in clear support for them. Why do you think that is?
Well, Iran is a bit of an outlier in the Middle East, since it's not a natural ally of the Arab states in the region. That said, the Arab states in the region have been remarkably or noticeably muted on this conflict. They haven't issued strong condemnations either way. And we should remember that Saudi Arabia and Iran now maintain closer relations than they have in the past. So even though Iran has lost some of the power of its proxies, or its proxies have lost some of their potency, it's not as uniformly negative as it could be. But then again, the reality remains that loyalties, alliances are different in the Middle East compared to what they are here in Europe, for example. And if I may put in a quick word on the way Europe looks today, there is nothing inevitable about it looking like it does today with NATO, with the European Union. That is the result of painstaking efforts of generations of diplomats to make war impossible on the European continent, including the UK. And they succeeded. And something, especially seeing what is happening in the Middle East and elsewhere, that is something to be incredibly grateful for.